Hi everyone, welcome to week 6 in program development. This week we're going to be talking about a number of different things. Number one, we're going to be talking about program planning, so implementation and promotion. We'll also be talking about a little bit more about risk assessments, etc. When developing a program, what type of risk assessments you should be doing. And we'll look at a basic risk assessment matrix, which I think is a really good one. I use a very similar one at work, and if I'm not mistaken, it might be the one from my workplace that we're using or talking about today. The other thing is we'll be talking about promotion and some of the elements of promotion. Before we get into discussing a couple of those points, what I wanted to go through was the assessment. So what I'm going to be doing, I'll be sharing my screen at the moment, and I'll also just talk to a couple of things. This week I've got an activity, so in week 6, we'll start sharing the screen now. Right, so in week 6, we'll have, I've got down there project management forum question. It's a really quick one, so it's not too arduous, this one. I'm just getting everyone to add in one idea, and each person is adding in one idea about project management, what makes a good project manager. And so we'll build up as a group a nice rich tapestry of thoughts about what makes a good project manager or project team. I'm also going to discuss the upcoming assessment, which is due this Sunday, I believe. So I'm just bringing that up now. Due week 6, there we go. So assessment task 2, part A. So this is where you are to plan and develop an event or program in response to the need identified in assessment 1, and develop a plan to put this on that includes an actual simulated event which you'll be implementing later on in part 2B. So questions from either Lydia, Stacey or Sally about where they're at or clarification? Are there any points that you just want clarified?
There was one for, I just had it up before. Let me. It was for the question, it was E. When it has, because the one that you put up, it had a table that we had to fill in, it was the same as assessment 1.
The planning wizard.
So do we do it pretty much like the same except more of a broader scope? Last time we did 3 strategies for 1 objective. Now do we do more objectives?
Yeah, well look, it's a bit broader, but you know, you've done that before, so some of it's okay. This is a really, I thought this was a really, poor table, and I think, was it last week we spoke about you can find any table or make your own, and because I didn't think this one was really a groundbreaking example of impact or an evaluation overview. I didn't think it was that good. So if you find one that's better, definitely use that without a doubt. I'm just looking. Sorry, I was just looking at the side of the page when you press this link in the assessment, what it actually takes you to. And so going in there, I didn't actually think it was that good. Did you guys think it was that good? I think, in fact, I found it a little confusing. Did you find it confusing? Yeah?
It's all right.
It's just...
So, Mark, I've been using the templates, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm just following the template, the assessment template that you provided.
Yeah.
I've just been following that format.
No worries then. That's probably the easiest way. I don't think if you, and really, as I mentioned last week, it's all about keeping it quite simple. The more I'm looking at points that you want to demonstrate. So when you look at, and again, I'll just mention it, but when you look at, the marking criteria, as long as you've evidenced that marking criteria, you're going to be in the right place. So just to drill down on that, Lydia, you can have quite a small template. You don't have to go too large, as long as you've shown.
So how many objectives would you like? How many objectives would you like us to do?
So with the objectives, there's no count. That's why I'm saying keep your program quite small. I'll be looking at, that you've identified those key objectives C to be achieved by the program or event. So there is no count on how many. I just want to see for the particular program that you're doing that you've identified them and you've been able to demonstrate that. So let's say at a minimum 2. Would 2 be too arduous? No? If you've got 2, I think you're on the right track at a minimum. More than that, if you're starting to go towards 10 as key objectives, it's not keeping to the KISS methodology, keeping it simple. Don't balloon out this huge program. So just keep it as a nice simple program that is really easy to evidence. And then we're on track. I might just jump in. Now, there's quite a few slides. Now, I'll let you go through a lot of these slides at your own leisure. A couple of things I want to do. I'm going to go through a couple of the key points. So the PowerPoints, and highlight some of those key points, just so you're across them. And also, always remember for those who are watching as well, any questions you might have about the PowerPoints or any clarification, please give me an email and we'll have a chat. Better yet, put it in the forum, I'll get the message and we can all learn together and have a chat about it. But it's always great to see that you're asking questions or clarification, and I know that you're reading everything. Now, there's a bit of, talking of reading everything, there was some reading to do during the week, and within that there's some bits and pieces. So there's a risk assessment you can look at, but we're going to look at a simple risk assessment today, and so there's one in the PowerPoint, and in that the risk assessment, I've worked for the Salvation Army, and so I'm pretty sure the one in that is supplied here, I may have provided at some point to ACAP. I've always had a few good risk assessments up my sleeve to use, but let's start. And there's a few slides in this, so I'm going to go through them. I've got 3 different. You'll see them up in the class space, but I've got 3 different PowerPoints that you guys can go through and learn. And it's quite comprehensive, so I don't want to bore you to tears too much. I just want to tick over some of the main topics and go over them, let you read in more depth, and just allow for any questions that might come out of that when you have looked through them. And then please try and add in to the activity for this week, just add in one thought that you might have, excuse me, into the forum, and that would be great, just to show that you're ticking over. And Stacey, if you get a bit of time, just look at last week's and just to catch up and get across it would be great. And anyone else who hasn't done any activities out there in Zoom land, please try and have a look at it and just so you're across all the learning. Right, so within this, we're talking about planning program. Should pop up now. Beautiful. Okay. And so this is just a step back to last week. And so we were talking about expected benefits. So we were talking about some of the key questions that the plan will have to address. What are the expected benefits to stakeholders? What are risks? What scale of technological solution do you need? So what tech stuff, IT, etc. What cooperative services are covered? Which personnel will be involved in the process? How can we ensure good performance? And so how we're monitoring, how we're measuring, how can your program be maintained. This week we'll fly into, now we've given some thought on how you're going to answer these. We'll do an implementation plan, so take your time, just so you don't make too many mistakes. But within that, don't worry about it. It's a process that you're going to learn, and how to put a program together. And I think it's quite a simple process that we're going through, so it should be really easy to understand for you, I'm hoping. But if it's not, please ask questions, clarifying questions. So within that, it's all about using logic. So make sure you use logic to put it together, and putting together a program plan. Also use your community engagement skills to make sure many people are involved. So it is a program that's developed based on presenting needs to the community. And so we'll be focusing on how do we implement a program, what we shouldn't do when implementing a program, what is marketing, right? So they're the 3 PowerPoints that are put up in the class space. So hopefully you'll get a really good idea of how they work in conjunction when developing a program. So what do we need to do to implement a program or project? It may vary your plan on what stage your community is at. So this is talking about really a community development process where you're going into, and the concept is you go into a community, you're analysing what their need is, and you're assisting them to create things. That's that community development stuff. In some communities, they might not know what they need, so there might be, you might need to assist them to understand that, but they also need to work out what some of the risks are in doing it. And so I think within this, it's recommended that you begin with easier achievements, so early wins, just to get everyone on board. It's something that can be easily seen to be working, and so people can get on board with it. Early success gains more runs. So it's too complicated. People might become exhausted too quickly, and so they might not believe in what you're doing. So why is implementation plan so important? It ensures best practices are used, and it's an efficient use of time and energy. So we're going to be looking at the how, who, what, and why. And so the how is project inputs are converted into project outputs, may be looked at as putting into action, putting into practice, and the management of the project. The who, we're looking at it's done by implementing agency that prepared the project and received funding for it. So that's the organisation might be doing the implementation. So, for example, Stacey was talking about the other week that she's doing a nutrition program and putting together or trying to obtain some funding for whatever pot of cash, wherever she can get it. And so in that case, Stacey's the who. You're the one putting it together. The organisation that you're representing is the who. And so any other organisations that might work with Stacey or any of your projects, they will be collaborating. And so they might sit on a board giving technical advice, secondary opinions, and or lending their staff to any of your projects. So project activation and project operation. So this means making arrangement to have the project started, and the project operation is just making sure it's managed along the way. One thing that you might want to look at as your standard project tool, the simplest one is a Gantt chart. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, G-A-N-T. Have anyone heard of a Gantt chart before? So Lydia has, yeah, out of the 3. Gantt chart is simply, yeah, you've heard of a Gantt chart, Lydia?
Is that thing that it shows what, like a timeline of like when things need to be done.
So you might have a list of activities down one axis, but as you go along, it's cut up into segments. And so your actions, when you're doing what, who's responsible for it, are all in date form and where your project should be sitting at. So basically it gives you something to, you know, when to activate something or do something in your project timeline. A Gantt chart, look it up on Google. It's a really simple tool, but it's a really effective tool to help you run to schedule. Doesn't mean your project's always going to run to it, but at least it enables you to break your project up, into achievable segments for delivery. And I think that's a really important thing. And you can give yourself a timeline. You might move things around, but it does give you a baseline to operate within, so things aren't or don't go astray. It is a simple, basic tool, but it is one that's absolutely necessary. So become familiar with it if you don't know it. So operation and maintenance to obtain value and maximum returns, to have the project properly managed and maintained regularly. So approaches to project implementation, top-down approach, mainly done by agencies from outside the community with limited involvement by beneficiaries. A bottom-up approach, beneficiaries implement the project, outside agencies may provide the financial resources and technical assistance, and a collaboration or participatory approach. Top-down, bottom-up, project implementation is applied in the process. So the project implementation plan, this is one of the buzzwords, so you'll start to get used to buzzwords in project management. The PIP. So if a PIP is not carried out during the project design process and embodied in the project documents, it's carried out at the project activation stage, so when you go live. So what's in a PIP? What activities can produce expected project outputs? What is the sequence of these activities? What is the time frame for these activities? Who will be responsible for carrying out each activity? So the PIP, what we're discussing there is that Gantt chart. That Gantt chart that I was referring to encapsulates some of those things and helps you track it. So you'll be able to find one really, but this could be an example of what we're looking at. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and this isn't really even in a timeline, but you can set that up in a nice timeline, but it shows you week by week what's actually happening. And so these are examples. You can go and look at online and look for some different guides to evidence what you might do. So basically we're looking at week 1, what are we doing? Week 2, what are we doing? And who's doing it? So this is a really basic one. More comprehensive ones, as I've said, you can find very easily. PIP plan continued. So the role of the implementing agency, the specific responsibility of key staff during project implementation and monitoring are outlined, and beneficiary participation, the involvement of the beneficiaries in planning and implementation and what is expected of them is spelt out. So we're talking about organisation structure and staffing, and most importantly, financial management. When a fund's going to be released. So that all has to be in the plan as well. The reporting system, what you're reporting, who you're reporting to, and the sustainability. So hopefully the sustainability is more so about there might be some funding that is available, and that's how you start this project up. But what's going to happen when as you go along and you deliver? Will that project go on? Will it be sustainable without seeking extra funding to keep that program going? These things have to be considered and reported upon. The time control and remedial action, so the time taken to implement the project, and also the time control measures, making sure that there's good check-in points where whoever is running the actual project, what's called the project manager, is checking in with key people to make sure things are travelling along. And are there any issues? Is anything going wrong? Does anything need to be rectified or extended or examined in greater detail? So just making, and also, of course, making sure that the time schedule is being adhered to, and project activity timing listing can be of great performance in making sure that you are adhering to a time. So in that Gantt chart, if you like, or the PIP, all those actions, when breaking up, that helps you keep on track and you know when things should finish and the new part of the project should start. Project activity time listing. So this is an example of when things are happening. A very simple format. Have a look at it in your own time. Probably find some more. Explore opportunities and be flexible. So you don't have to be, a high-end taskmaster. You need to keep the project on track, but with community development, on community projects especially, they do tend to take a lot longer than what you want them to take. And the reason why, in a nutshell, the more people you involve in decision-making processes, the more allowances for time. People are going to make decisions that, you're going to have to work through, and they're going to be very different and varied. And so if you have those people sitting on your committee, how you're planning a project, if you haven't got absolute control over it, and you allow for really good community access and input, then things are going to be really different and go all over the place. So those timelines will blow out. So your role is to try and keep it rolling, keep it concise, address all those issues, keep it together. So factors affecting project implementation, factors that lead to the success of projects, number of things listed here, and factors and problems that lead to the failure of projects. That's the one I want to focus on the most. I mean, it's fairly evident, but if we don't keep on top of some main things, we definitely don't want our project to fail. Financial problems, management problems, technical problems, political problems. Got to be across all those things when you're running any project. So if you think of political problems, there might be things in the community, how you control things. Technical problems, you might not be aware of data or what you're collecting or IT platforms. Management problems normally points to you. If you're managing this, financial problems, you didn't get any external funding for the dream that you had. So all things to consider. Other problems, poor scheduling, misallocation of funds, spending too much in one area, delays, lack of in-kind funding from other maybe agencies, accountability and transparency, it wasn't that great, too much bureaucracy in the mechanisms that you've set up for your project to manage it with too many people sitting on committees maybe. Bit of selfishness or nepotism, favoritism by some project managers giving great tasks to people getting upset, saying, I'm not having this, I'm out of here, not being part of the project. Weak monitoring systems, calamities like drought, earthquakes, landslides, hailstorms. Imagine if you're running an outdoor event and you had, a hailstorm that came through the day before as you were setting up all the marquees, etc. Washed out there and became a muddy patch, things like that. Policy changes, migration of beneficiaries, so people move, who's going to be delivery for. Lack of teamwork, that's happening in a lot of places, right? And lack of incentive for people who are implementing the project. Progress reporting, so making sure that you have a really good mechanism, so all through the project who is doing what. So define things, measure things, analyse, improve. So making sure you've got a solid process in place. Making sure that people are cooperating and talking to each other. who are running the project. This is normally done through meetings, which is pretty much the standard way. Bless you, Sally. Standard thing to do is more so you probably hold, if it's a big project, either weekly or bi-weekly meetings where everyone gets together and just make sure everything's okay. Or you might just do it, I think the tool that we're on right now, Zoom, best tool that I've seen in a long time. If I'm running projects now, people are all over the place. This is where I'd have everyone, and I'd be recording it and giving everyone a recorded link to every meeting. Then no one has to write minutes, and you've got everything recorded and everyone's communicating. And I think a discussion really covers things. So those meetings might be able to be held with the new technologies that are out now. And having things like this one that we're using now, Zoom, which is freely available, is one of the best tools that I've used. I don't know if anyone here has used Skype, for example, but Skype always tends to break down and do all sorts of weird, wonderful things. This is quite a great platform to use, and it seems quite solid, and you can do a lot with it. So I'd recommend this for meetings or to hold things together as well. I use it now, ever since I started using it for school. I use it for work. I use it for other boards that I'm on. It's fantastic. So maybe this is the way forward. This is talking about what project management is, what it may be defined as. So within that, it's getting things done from available sources the way you want them to be done. Project management is about management of every detail of a project. That's it. I love that one. Management of every detail of a project. So in other words, if you're the project manager, you have to be across everything. An example in my workplace, I'm a project owner, and so I have project managers that work for me. And so within that, I'm not aware of every detail, but the project manager will come to me and I'll be asking them what's going on here, what's going on there, what's happening here. So I'll be making sure that the project runs, and I'm looking from a high level, but that project manager is the absolute expert in everything that's going on. So if I'll be asking the questions and they'll be saying, yep, I've got this, I'm doing this here, I'm doing that there. They're the ones who know exactly what's going on with that project. I'm just making sure they don't miss anything. Project management decisions, so forecasting, setting objectives and policy making, the planning side of things, programming, scheduling and budgeting. That scheduling is like that Gantt chart again, making sure things are going in sequence. A really easy way to think about it, and maybe it is for me, but I can use two analogies. The bake the cake analogy. So when you're baking cake, what are all the things that you need to do to make sure that from when you thought of making that cake to when you're sitting there, I don't know, maybe blowing out the candles on that birthday cake, what are all the steps in between? That's that scheduling, to make sure everything works correctly and you end up with that end product with a candle stuck in it, lit, where you can go, happy birthday to, and bang, blow it out. To get to that point, all those parts, that's how you think about that scheduling. And that really helps me kind of remember the process of project management and scheduling, all that process. Making a cake, there's a lot of things in it, but if you miss one, you might end up with a cookie, because that thing might not rise. It might be as flat as a pancake. I don't know. So you've got to make sure you implement things correctly at the right time. Project control. So we're talking about plans of operation, review and updating. Project action. So when review has shown a project to be deviating from the plan, an action is required to restore the operation. So imagine if you've got this great, you've sat there, you've racked your brain, you've gone, right, I'm going to have this great schedule, everything, and then it all starts to go pear-shaped. Someone's quit here, someone's embezzled money from your funding, everything's gone off the rails. You have to report, you go, what do? You have to implement new actions, you have to redo your timelines. That means your intervention keeps that project or reignites it and puts it back onto a scheduled track. So this is all about what a good manager, project manager should know, do, etc. Food for thought. Please have a read. I've got some of these things up on the forum that I'd like you to answer during the week. And so there's a little bit more food for thought as well. Have a think about that. That was the end of that one. Any questions on that? I've got two shorter ones. Thank goodness they're shorter. We're saying it's a lot of PowerPoints. But these two, I just want to go on some really key points. You know, these PowerPoints I see here are quite good in what they can get you to understand. I will say make sure you do some of the reading. And remember, when you're doing some of the suggested reading, it's not about reading every single syllable. You need to be skim reading a lot of these things just to grasp the concept. And this will help you along. It's about embedding that knowledge about project management and how project planning would go together. Any questions, by the way? Are you all okay to roll on to the next PowerPoint? Yep. Yep, good to go. There's only about 10 in this. That should make you feel a lot happier. But this one's what we're going to be doing in this one, though. We're going to be talking about a bit of risk management. That's why it's really, really good to think about and really good to view. So risk assessments, anything you do, you've got to have a risk assessment. An example, I had 3 students from Federation University come and see me today. I said, can we come and do and it was actually a project. It wasn't a student placement. They wanted to do a project for me. And I said, okay. And then I said, well, what I'd really like, what I haven't got, I've got a drop-in cafe for young people. And so where they drop in, they can use computers, talk to youth workers. But what I don't have is some activities with some risk assessments already done. So any of my workers can open a book and run any activity out of that book and know there's a risk assessment for that activity. So they know they can run an activity safely. If you think of, you know, for those of us who might be a little bit older, and I'm probably putting myself in that category more than anyone here, right? But the YMCA, when I was growing up, I used to be able to go to the YMCA during school holidays, and they would run all sorts of things. You know, they would run, you know, games like, they call one game British Bulldogs. And you'd run from one end of a hall to another and get gang tackled, elbowed in the head, smacked. But really, they'd be trying to pull you to the ground. And you'd get to the other end, and I'm sure I had concussion a few times. No risk assessment done on that, right, type of activity. These were the old days where we're running programs these days and running anything. We need to kind of think about what are the risks involved in any activity that we're going to do. And a really other quick example, I'm running an activity, and I'm basing this on what Stacey's probably going to do, running a cooking activity. And so within that, I'm using a stove with open flame gas. And I haven't thought about people coming and using for the first time that they're wearing some a shawl that's quite dangly and hanging around. And that shawl or whatever, or scarf they've got hanging around their neck is made out of some polyester that goes up in a flash when it's exposed to flames. And they're leaning over this, and bang, they're up in flames, and I'm trying to put them out with some water. So a risk assessment might alleviate some of that risk by saying, what type of clothing should participants be wearing? Making sure no dangly clothing or appropriate clothing or aprons are worn. This would go into your risk assessment. Does that make sense to everyone? What we're trying to do with risk assessments, yeah? Now I'll show you what a matrix looks like. So really, the use of a risk assessment, it's standardized framework for any task or activity. It's an approach across your service. It ensures that necessary safety considerations are put in place, and to make sure they're consistent with the nature of the task or activities that are going to happen. It's really OH&S, so anyone who's worked in any workplace, part-time, full-time, where they might have a partner who works somewhere, they will come in, they will know about OH&S. Let's be real. OH&S is great. It can suffocate the hell out of us. Oh, there's a cat. That's an OH&S issue there. A cat jumping over with a bit of help over. I don't know if it's RSPCA or an OH&S issue. It's one or the other. We've got to toss that one up. But nonetheless, it's some of those things that we have to do. OH&S, it encompasses everything. It helps us. It protects us. It can strangulate us in some respects, but it's some of the things that we have to know. What is the goal of a good risk assessment? So good risk assessment broken down, 5 main points. Identify risk factors, who can be harmed and how. It evaluates the risk, so it puts it into levels. It enables you to record things. It enables you to do 2 things: mitigate the risk or monitor and control it. So mitigate is get rid of it completely, or some risks you can't get rid of, can you? They're impossible. They're a part of a program. Imagine I'm running a basketball program. Someone gets elbowed in the head. I've identified that there's going to be, in any recreational type activity, someone may be at risk of, soft tissue elbow accident. I can say that. I can have rules in place, but I'm never going to be able to mitigate or stop it, am I? It's just a part of the risk that we have to absorb to run the actual thing. But I know that it would be likely, but probably a lower level of injury that might occur. So when they're done by a competent team of individuals who have good working knowledge of the workplace and the project that you're doing, staff should always include supervisors and workers who are in that process, just to have a few sets of eyes to review that. And so a typical risk assessment would have the worker who is going to run an activity think about all the things that could go wrong in that activity and write up a risk matrix. And they'll have a standard format. Then they would show that to their supervisor to sign off. And then that from the supervisor, it would normally go to a health and safety rep in a workplace. And this is an average thing, but there'd be 3 tiers of sign off. And that's just so there's many sets of eyes looking at it. And just to keep it simple, so we're not putting on there some weird stuff, and to keep it fairly standardized. So in there, it's about identifying hazards, evaluate the likelihood of, and so that's an important word there, likelihood of injury or illness. Consider normal operational situations as well as non-standard. Review all your standard OH&S information, any hazards, manufacturing literature, anything that you might come into contact with. Identify actions to eliminate or control the risk. So eliminate or mitigate. Monitor and evaluate to confirm the risk is controlled. Keep any documentation. And so that means you'd have a risk assessment plan. You might review that in your organisation every 12 months, every 6 months, whatever it might be. But it keeps, at least if someone died doing your activity and you were dragged into court, you could say, hey, I took reasonable attempts to think about every risk, but I did not know that jumping on a trampoline that this person was going to get struck by lightning. And so, everything I did was fairly reasonable, but, this event was one out of the box, right? This is talking about how hazards are identified. And so overall, the goal is to find and record possible hazards that may be present in your workplace. So this is talking about to be sure that all hazards are found, look at the aspects of the work, include non-routine activities such as maintenance, repair, or planning, include people who work off-site, either at home. So it starts to break down all those parts. Have a read of that, understand it. I'm drilling down to this one. This is what I would what I use now, and so this is a standard risk matrix. And so when you're working things out, you'd be looking at this, and so you're looking at likelihood and consequence. And so what you're trying to work out with any activity that you do, what's the likelihood that it would happen? Is it very likely? Is it likely? Is it possible? Unlikely or highly unlikely? And then we add in the other axis. What's the consequence? So if something happens, would you get a fatality? Would you get a major injury? Would you get a minor injury? Would first aid be needed, or would it be negligible? So every activity, you're judging where that might sit on that matrix. And that would help you understand what needs to be controlled and what does not need to be controlled. So if something's very likely, typically experienced at least once every 6 months. If it's experienced once every 5 years by an individual, it's likely. Unlikely, maybe once during the lifetime of an individual. Very unlikely, 1% chance of happening in the working lifetime. So starting to talk about those. Once you've done that, you can start to put things into perspective, and then put things into, we'll start to work out where things would sit for your particular activity, and then mitigate them if you need to, get rid of them, or be able to move forward and show what controls you put in place. So there's a fair bit in there. That was the end of that show. So, which is great. We can go on to the last set of slides, and so, which I'm keen to get onto. And so within this one, we'll really zip through this. This is where we're talking about promotion. This is a little bit softer. So there's 3 parts. There's a big week this week, so we'll get a lot of information. A lot of this you'll already know. I'll really go through this quite quickly so we can, and any questions, tell me. So basically, what is promotion? It's pretty much what I imagine you would think. It is to raise awareness of a particular program that we're running. Some of the main methods that we're going to use would be social media. It's the biggest thing going, isn't it? I mean, I find it really hard just to get across. From running programs, people are talking to me about Snapchat, Instagram, all these things. And I kind of have an idea, but it seems like every 6 months there's some kind of new vehicle or app that's going to promote things in different ways, and you have to get across them and understand how it works. And I find it sometimes baffling what's being invented, and the pace, the speed, and how quickly people can get across things, and how quick, your promotion for a particular subject might go gangbusters really quick, but then die down, and how you can keep that going. So social media, flyers, posters, internet, mail, it even sounds archaic. Who sends things out in the mail anymore? I know the only things I would send out in the mail, and I'm probably even losing that, would be Christmas cards, and now I'm even using electronic Christmas cards. How are animated things, me with my face on a dancing elf. I don't know. There's all sorts of things that you wouldn't even use a normal card anymore. Newspaper becoming archaic. Anything else you can think of, but that's going to be promotion. So just talking about social media, Facebook is still probably the main thing to use. We've got we've got my YouTube channel. I mean, these recordings go up on YouTube. Twitter, don't use. It's always scared of Twitter. I'm even more scared of it since Donald Trump, and he's crazy. I just kind of look at it. You can put up too many crazy things and you've got access to people too immediately. It's a dangerous tool, that one. So I suppose how you use your social media is something that you need to think about, and what platforms of social media. For me, I would look at trying to match my demographic. Who is my target audience of my program? What social media platforms might they use? Would that be a fair assumption? Yeah. Because, I dare say if I'm using Facebook and I'm dealing with the youth market going up to the age of 25, they probably think, that's for people on the age pension, Facebook these days. It's not cool anymore. But, to many of us 40-somethings, still the way we're talking to our friends. You know, we have to move forward. And even then, Instagram's taking over that market now because everyone just wants to get something really quick out there. So things are changing. What is a poster? Posters, these are still really relevant. Every time I seem to go out to market and ask audiences how would they like to be contacted about an event, they always still like a poster, even if it's an electronic poster, but a lot of them still like paper. And so it's a really weird thing, but posters to advertise events, still great. Still need graphic designers, still need to get across how we design posters so they're flashy, they're interesting, they have the right information at the right dose, and they inform people about what it is that your program does. This is a step on preparing. Why prepare a poster? Share approaches, discuss how lessons are being used to improve programs, showcase programs to other funders. You can hardly read the one in yellow. Highlight strengths for potential funders. Provide evidence that lessons from the program have been disseminated to a broader audience. So posters are still key. I was looking at one today, one of my team prepared about an event, and it was really busy, but they made it in such a way it looked really great. But, you know, my end, every time I review posters and things, I just want to know, right, I know you're trying to capture an audience. You want people to look at this. Has it got where this event's going to be? Has it got the right dates? Has it got the right contact people? You know, I look for what information is on that poster. Does it have contact us on Facebook? Does it have our Instagram account? Does it have key things on that poster that we want? Are there any spelling errors, which is one thing I always get upset about. And, you know, I always find a spelling error, always, or grammatical error, which I love to find. Must be the old man in me. So what are the elements of an effective poster? And so posters should have enough information to paint a relatively clear picture. But it's something, some of the things that I was talking about, people shouldn't have to spend too much time understanding what's going on. So it should be easy to read. It shouldn't be like a Where's Wally chart. What information is where, you know, what's going on. You shouldn't be doing that stuff. You should be able to find, understand really easy. Make sure you select those graphics really well. And so it matches in with the message that you're doing, and font sizes. And I mean, here's a suggestion. You should be able to read it from a distance of at least 5 feet. Used to me. But I'm sure, you know, if you're advertising something, most people aren't going to come right up to, if it's a printed one, most people aren't going to come right up to it. If you're creating an electronic poster, a bit different. But a printed one, yeah, I can see the value in that, definitely. Elements of an effective poster. My goodness, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Who knows that one? You all would have studied Maslow. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs can go to any element. In this case, it's a poster. Good on you, Sally. You know Maslow? It's good to see. So within that, we've got, what do we need? We need at the top, or we'll start from the bottom. We need handouts, summarising poster and contact information, explicit implications or lessons, a logical flow of information, clear source of information, selected graphic depictions, clear title, author and funding source. I don't know about the funding source. Might be, actually, yeah, you do need the funding source. I mean, the state government, if you've got a grant off the state government, of course you're going to have the state government's, you know, symbol down the bottom to say good on you, you know, Premier Andrew, you know, or whoever might have given you the money. Statement of the problem addressed by the project, what it's going to achieve maybe, and focused with limited things going on. Do they have to convey research or evaluation findings? No, in a nutshell, limited information. You want the targeted stuff, and that's about it. So look at that. One of my favourite lines. KISS keep it simple. So what are the takeaways? 1 or 2 points. And really, I think about that from anything that you're going to do. I mean, if you think about even this, I've gone through 120 million slides. What are your takeaways? Even I know that they've given you too many takeaways. This is how the program is. And, into the future, this will gear down to a few takeaways per week when I deliver this the next time around, next semester. We're streamlining some of these things at the moment. But at the moment, the takeaways for you are there's a heap of them every week. And so it does become more confusing. But, really you want to keep it simple as much as you can. So there's key takeaways, and that's your learning. Little nuggets of information that you go, great, that's fantastic, and you remember them. And also contact information. My goodness, I don't know if you've ever seen it. I have. People put up a post and you go, oh, who do I contact for that? And you go, there's no contact information, or it's wrong. Oh my goodness. See, that's why you always need someone like me overlooking the posters and going, what's this, what's that, and looking for the mistakes. Always helps. So this is an example of a poster. What do you think of that poster, just off the top of your head?
It's cluttered.
I'm lost already. There was a hell of a lot of stuff going on there. I've already gone out the back and, I've considered suicidal ideation just by reading that because I've had too much input. There's a lot going on. That really needs to be geared right back. And so I like the middle bit. Everything else, there's too much going on. Every point, so the aims, the pages, that should have been cut down to maybe 2 points, 3 points. And the picture should have been bigger, and to make it more interesting. That's more like a report than a poster, really, isn't it? This week, I know you find this hard to believe. This is the last slide right here that I will bombard you with this week. We've gone on a journey together. I feel like we've known each other for a couple of years, even though this week we've been traveling along through 3 slide presentations. I really do appreciate your taking this journey with me. Hopefully you got some takeaways. I'll do a couple of recaps. So first question, what's the takeaways that you got from this? So what are some of the key points you recall about the project implementation, phase A to G, that we explored today? Have a think about that. Don't answer me now. It's too confusing. There was too many things that we gave you, but have a think about it. And if you can, put something up in the forum. Key points. Forum, the journal. My goodness, again, I'm even getting confused. In the journal space, bang up some of these in the journal space that you have, your reflective journal. Why is it important to be working with others to roll out a program? Why do we think that's important?
So you need to about a reach. You need to get as many people involved, so you're gonna about identify the needs, and
correct, yeah.
and also, yeah.
You want a good perspective. You want to know. I mean, if I run a program by myself, it's going to be a program that I like. It's going to be a program for people. It's just what I like to do, and it will meet my needs, but it's not going to meet everyone's needs. So, we need to have others in that. What skills and strengths are you noticing you could bring to the program development table? That's a deep one. That's something for you to reflect deep inside and come up with some deep answer. I can't tell you that answer. You carry that inside. What does this quote bring up for you in relationship to program development? Plan for the best, prepare for the worst. That's another conundrum, another thought that comes deep inside. What do you think about that? Throw it up in your journal. And lastly, think about a cool capturing poster you've seen around. Now, there's a funny thing, because again, being cool, apart from the last person who used that word is the Fonz, right? Just before he jumped the shark and they had their last episode of Happy Days, because they went, why is the Fonz jumping a shark in the car park of Big Al's restaurant? I don't know what's going on. Happy Days has gone off the rails. But nonetheless, think about a cool poster that you've seen around and identify what you thought was groovy. What was groovy about that poster? What stood out to you? Could be any poster. But what was it? What did it? So that'd be interesting to see. Anyone who's out there watching this recording, I really expect you to go through these last questions, throw them on the reflective journal. You haven't turned up to any Zoom sessions yet. I hope you're still out there watching, but this is your participatory time. Please get out there, put it into the reflective journal. I'd love to hear from you. Be great. Any questions from people who've gone on the journey, Lydia, Stacey, or Sally, for this week?
No, yeah, like you said, it was a lot to take in, but like you said, I've taken some takeaways from it, so it's
I hope so.
you know, worthwhile.
I
Yeah.
hope I just haven't just bombarded you, and now you walk away confused and dazed, like you've been in a title fight of information.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, Sally.
Mark, I've got something to add.
Yeah.
I have never ever seen about 4 or 5 slides talking about posters. That's the first.
It was great. Well, really, you should be an expert in posters. I think, for me, as far as slides go, way too many, and it's very explanatory. But the key takeaways for a slide are really, or a poster, I should say, you just want to have the correct information there. You want to keep it brief. You want to make sure it stands out to your audience and it has the appropriate information. And, and then put up a slide like I just did, like that, and then you go, yeah, that's the wrong type of slide, isn't it? It's got some elements, but straight away when you look at that, there's too much going on. You want something that is really pared back and quite simple. You don't want anything that, I normally get about 2 or 3 sent to me a day, but they're so big, I don't like to keep them in my emails. I normally blow them away, but I'll see if I've got one really quickly. That's always good if I do. Draft media release. I've probably got rid of them today, but
you know what, Mark? You did miss out a really key ingredient for marketing. That was press releases.
Oh, press release, yes. I think that's your media. So how do, in other subjects that I deliver, I talk through press releases as part of that system. And so how to prepare them, what should be in them. And they don't really talk about it too much in this particular subject, but I do talk about that in one of the youth subjects where I actually go through preparing an event. And part of that is who are some key stakeholders that you're going to get, how to write a press release. Because you're right, Sally, there is how to write that press release is quite different, isn't it? It is key stakeholders.
Yeah, and also these days it's all digital as well.
Yeah.
So you can use a press release digitally to get it out to your target audience and also to the editors, for magazines, etc.
Yeah, definitely. And we don't go into it in this particular one, but I know that one thing that I do have is one of the subjects that I do teach. I do have press releases, and I go into it in this particular subject. So this subject that is a youth subject, working in industry, is all about communication, and we're running projects that are very similar to what you guys are doing. But in that particular one, I take people on a journey of doing a community development project, and I go through press release, I go through all elements, who's going to be in different meetings, and so people get a really good idea. So that's one of the youth work subjects that I do, which is a good one. But yeah, good point, Sally. Press releases. So for anyone who's listening, make sure you have a look at what a press release is and how that goes together, because that will help you in your marketing as well. Any other comments from this week?
No.
Everyone's had enough. We're right on. I'm on 9:39. I was going to try and run for 45 minutes. I've run for 69 minutes. It's close. Sorry, my friends. We did go through a hell of a lot. There's a lot up there, you know, and look, the assignment is due on Sunday. Anyone who is listening or people here, any more confusion or wanting more clarification, give me a ring. But have a look at some of the activities. Knock those on the head. I've got a forum activity, and I'd like you to also complete the journal, reflective journal for this week, with the questions at the end of the last PowerPoint that we sat on. So it'd be great to have you there. I don't know if people are still putting into the reflective journal. I think it's died off, so it's probably good practice to keep it going. A bit of feedback from Sally, Stacey, or Lydia. What do you think about that graphic that I've found to do my Zoom schedule? It's the first time I've used an animated graphic. Is that no consequence?
Yeah.
Quite snazzy.
Look a bit better than your average. Trying to make it look a bit snazzier in the workplace. This is the first time I've also used this Zoom, where people can come in and just hit it and drop into a meeting. And so using that technology, which I'm hoping that if others joined us on Zoom, they could tell me if it's really good or if it's shite. But I'm trying to find out if that works. I reckon it was a great thing for me to learn that. It was like teaching, you know, ancient Egyptians how to write in English. It was quite hard for me. So or for me to learn hieroglyphics as another way to do it. But that was
Mark,
great.
I'd like to feed something back. Since doing this trimester, I'm doing your class here, the program management, and also Simon Daly's case management, as a lot of the girls are.
Yeah.
And it's been
Simon's
so
an
much.
ex-colleague of mine too.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. It's been so much better because you guys are doing the templates, the assessment templates.
Yeah.
And that makes it so much easier. And you've also got the direct links to Zoom, which makes it so much easier. So
Yeah, great.
big thank you.
And that's what it's really about. We are buffoons, but we are trying to just help everyone learn at a pace that I suppose is easy to understand. Because one thing I'm really aware of, most people who are participating in these courses work or have full lives, you know, where they're doing many other things, and this is another layer on top. So you really want to make sure information is fed in a very easy to absorb manner, and things are very easy to get across and to reduce confusion. So some of the things, feedback like that for me, Sally, is absolutely gold, that we're on the right track. But where things aren't working, please throw it up because we are literally redesigning this space right now. And so welcome videos, what activities we're doing. I mean, I've got things that you can't see that are hidden at the moment. They're like learning books. And so those, the PowerPoints we're compressing, and we're turning into learning books that you'll be able to go through at your own pace every week. And then we'll just be jumping in and talking to you about it. So things will change next term for other learners. And so anything that you come up with, any suggestions that you think, geez, that wasn't that good, or this is how I'd like to have things delivered, please throw our ways, because we'll modify things straight away. And, you know, I think some of those templates came out of listening to students and also marking from students and getting some really weird, wonderful stuff coming in, you know, people putting things together. Because if you haven't told someone how you would like something, and people might not have studied for maybe a few years, and they're coming back and just doing a best guess. This way, it just standardises things and makes it a little bit easier. So thanks, Sally.
Cool.
I'll and also this is another new thing: putting videos of every week. I never used to do that, straight in the middle. But I mean, for you guys, you probably go, I was there. I don't need to watch it. But for others who might not have watched it, they can just find that a little bit easier. And I might carry on with a lot of guff, but at least they can fast forward, go to really point bits, and get some nuggets of information out of it. I mean, if I took it to the next level, I'd be getting into some kind of film editing school and just reducing this whole hour down to about 5 minutes of really good stuff, the best of. Yeah, that's the next level. I'm not there yet.
Keep it real. Keep it real, Mark.
Yeah, that's right. Keep it real. Keep it
People like the ad living.
So, but look, I hope to see you all next week, and without too much grief. Oh, that was the other thing. Did you guys participate in the doodle I sent out for a second? What days would you guys like? Because I really didn't get too many people feeding back on that, so I was kind of like, all right, we haven't got anything.
All the times that were proposed on that, I had to say none of them were suitable. This time, suitable for me.
Yeah, well, look,
I was expecting that a lot of people are probably going to have the same issues where the times aren't.
Look, I'm trying to do a bookend delivery, not like this big though, of maybe a 15 to 30 minute. How's it going? Any questions? And at the other end of the week, the college would like me to do that, and I can see the value in it. But to do that bookend, if I'm going on Tuesday night, I was thinking Friday or Saturday. Maybe I can give some more choice. Any other times that are suitable for you guys?
I would just say, for me, because it's like well after 9:30 now.
Yep.
I'm really tired, and when I'm tired, I don't participate so much, and I'm not retaining the information as much. So for me personally, I would prefer like a 7 o'clock start, but I do I think there's benefit in doing a whole hour because you get the depth of the teaching. And I think also the beginning of the week is always better just because you're fresh. Yeah. Towards the end of the week, it's too easy just to miss it because, you've had enough.
So I was nearly on it. I was just I'm just missing out because we're a bit later. Start of the week's good.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Someone's just dropped in. Hi, Jen. See, sorry. You've just come in so sometimes it pays to go over a bit longer. Yeah, sorry, Jen. You've just hit the end of the recording, but we're just about to end after a marathon run.
I've been here the whole time here.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, because I jumped in by the Zoom link that you put up, just put up. Yeah, I jumped in straight away. So. Oh,
fantastic! We were just talking about how much of a wonderful thing that is, and whoever invented that must have been a goddamn genius. All right.
Yeah, because last week I couldn't find it, but this week I found it straight away, and I was running straight back from work, so I found it. I could just come in, and I was here. Yeah.
So I have had it there, I think, since the start. So I'm glad.
I couldn't find it last week, but yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Do you get to watch the recorded sessions?
Yeah, I watched them all. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Some are a bit boring, but hopefully we'll try and make them as entertaining as I can. But that's the end of this week. And there any? So I would dare say for you, Jen, is later better? And what state are you in?
I'm doing shift work, so I can't really say, whichever suitable. But I'll try to make whenever you guys can make.
Yeah, all right. Well, look, I'll take it on board. I'll put up another doodle poll and I'll send it around to everyone and we'll see what we get. But just to answer Sally, because I run across this, Brisbane, New South Wales, I think sometimes Tasmania, which is Victorian time, and Victoria. I try and do like when I've done 7:30, people up in Queensland arc up a bit because they think it's a bit early, and then when I do later, the people from Victoria or New South Wales, they go, "Hey, it's getting late in the day." So I try and about 8:30. I found it's the best one. Maybe we can give it down to 8 o'clock. How about that, Sally? Let's come in right in between. We'll try that one. I'll put that out for people to acknowledge. But that's it from me this week.
Okay, good night. Bye-bye.
Good night, my friends. See you. Oh, sorry.
Can I have some questions about the assignment? If you want to end it, it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
I want to end the recording and I'll just have some questions about it.
Yeah. Just one quick sec.